Good morning, it's AFALOZ in the Daily. So yesterday I saw a video on TikTok where a guy was asking like, are there been any new thoughts that have been asked? And then coincidentally I saw an article that was going over how the physiology of humanity, and the way that we process and kind of understand previous technology and the way that we utilize it really coincided the same exact way that we were utilizing physical tools back in the Stone Age. And it always relied on human manual labor. So regardless if we were hunting or gathering, we always utilize human brain and strength to utilize whatever tool we create. But then it went on to speak on how humans have now been outpaced by the technology that we're utilizing via AI. And I thought that was just like a great coincidence, because it's like, wow, what a great thought. Because like, what does it mean if we are not able to physically utilize or see, like, so if you think out of in a sense of like, oh, we found the steam engines, or we found combustible engines, and then we have to think of ways to, okay, well, what can we do to make this thing on the ground move? What can we make this thing that we made on the ground move in the air? We found a way to somehow make these chips. Can we make them smaller? We somehow made a way to make this chip and the way that it connects with another thing, and now there's like a function. What else can we make this function do? Oh, now we have a computer. Now we have can we make it modular? Can we make it smaller? Can we make it whatever? So it's always our processing, our brain processing, and our hands, our physical hands, making the tool, and then eventually we kind of start outsourcing our physical hands and start using our mental capacity to like make these things. But then from there, we've gotten to the point where we've outpaced all of that, and we now offsource our thinking, and now we're saying, well, I'm creatively, like, it's still your brain, but I'm thinking of abstract thoughts and you do the logical thinking for me. So we separate, so our brain is already parted, but then we offshored, we offloaded the logical thinking out of it and stuck with the creative aspect, the abstract reasoning. And at some point, we're going to be outpaced again, and we're going to offload that, but then all we're going to have are emotions. And at a certain point, it was like, well, I feel like what they're creatively saying or what they're logically saying isn't good. I feel, and then at some point, now I'm saying like at some point, but this is all going to happen within the next 10 years. We're going to outpace ourselves. In the next 5 years, we're going to remove our critical thinking. In the next 5 years, we're going to remove our creative thinking, and then 5 years after that, we're going to remove our emotional thinking and offload that. And not truly like offload, of course, we're not just going to like remove it, but it's going to be pushed on to this replica of us. We're going to create almost perfect replicas of us in the next 10 to 15 years. Excuse me. But that wasn't like the only thought that I had. If in philosophy, there's this giant book of philosophy of like kind of where it started and where it ventured off to, and what the latest kind of philosophical inklings are being expunged to. And the latest one is, of course, animals. It's animals because we have naturally believe we have thought of everything that we need to think of, and all the problems that we need to have as humans are out there. Not saying that they're all solved, I'm just saying that most of the problems that we need to think of and kind of ascertain and attain the answers to, or we want to like get the answers to, have been thought of. That is like the current thinking of human problems, that we've thought about the problems, and now we're just looking for solutions for those problems that we thought about. But the current branch of philosophy that is kind of gaining popularity, or more people are putting their brain power to, is animals, and the logic and emotional stance of animals. Are they intelligent? Are they going to evolve into intelligent beings? Anything that we've thought about from a human standpoint, we're trying to apply to an animalistic standpoint. But think of it this way: Should you own a dog? Should you own a pet? And if you say yes, that's exactly what slave owners used to say. Yes, you should own an animal because it's companion. It helps you with your emotions. It helps you, it's service because you can't do something. It has a job. You're housing it. You're feeding it. You're doing all these things that you're saying, well, it's part of the family. So, should you own animals? Now, if you deep dive into this and you logically and emotionally and creatively and use all parts of your brain to think about this, the answer should be pretty simple. You should not own animals. All animals, all beings are intelligent beings, are capable and have natural habitats, even the ones that we bastardized and created and we made them unlivable anywhere else. At a certain point, we need to ask ourselves, should those things exist? Should things exist in nature that don't have the ability to have a natural environment due to the fact that we created them? So that line of thinking, that specific, I'm jumping because like I said, we're being outpaced. So that line of thinking, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of that line of thinking of are animals intelligent beings, and are the things we're doing ethically and morally incorrect to other intelligent beings? We're always talking about aliens, we're always talking about other things when we're not even solving the problem here, right? We haven't even solved the human problem, and we created the animal problem, and now we're creating the AI problem. And we're gonna get to a point in the next 10 to 15 years where we need to ask the same exact questions that we're not asking for these animals. Should AI and robots exist if they're not gonna have a natural environment? And at some point, we're gonna have two indentured beings under us as masters. We're gonna have animals and we're gonna have artificial intelligence, sentient beings. And both of those, at some point, not saying it's gonna be the next 10 years, we're gonna see prototypes. When I say the next 10, 15 years, I'm talking about prototypes of slow ass robots doing your dishes for you, right? In the next 100 years, I'm gonna be long dead. In the next 100 years, we're gonna get to a point where we're gonna be able to ask AI and robot to do engineering for us, biomedical engineering for us. Hey, I want you to get this next batch of puppies to be able to walk on their hind legs. And then it's just going to move from there, right? So at a certain point, we are going to offload evolution to smarter beings. And we're gonna ask these smarter beings to speed up the evolution of certain animals. And we need to start thinking about now of the ethical and moral standings of these future thoughts, of how should we tackle these things? Because if we don't think about them now, we're gonna come to the same problem and same solution that we had before, which is do whatever we want to do until that thing rises up and requests, right? It's always ask for forgiveness and just do the bad thing first. So I'm saying we should ask about the bad things first and then figure it out and think about it and at least put it in the thoughts of everyone. So again, we have so many human problems that are not solved, but we're making even more problems and we're just not even thinking about that we're making these problems. And these are the next frontier of philosophy. Philosophy is all about how to be a conscious, morally and ethical person. And it's clearly going to branch into how do you be a conscious, ethically and moral being. Because at a certain point, we're just repeating the exact past, the exact history onto different things, onto different ontological beings. And how can we as humans ever talk or deal with other species, like alien species, not from Earth, if we can't even have a standard of living for all humans, a standard of living for all animals, a standard of living for AI, for artificial intelligence? when these three things are going to start populating the world in mass. And we had a start, but animals, or humans and animals have had the start of populating. We just had the head start of being able to have a unified communication regardless of the variances, because a tiger growling, as far as we know, a tiger growling could make sense to a cat growling, but it doesn't make as much sense to a monkey growling. And they get off the same base emotional, like, hey, fuck off, but the nuance of their conversations of like what we're doing now are lost to each individual one. So animals, even though we're part of animals, we're just choosing not to understand what they're saying. We all have a base layer understanding of what these emotions are. We know if an animal's sad. We know if a human is sad. We know, at least we started to know, right? This is like in the past 50 or 100 years or so that we started to like realize these things. So if we have that base level understanding, it stands to reason that there is a way for us to communicate. We've already done this with birds. We've done this with dolphins. We've done this with monkeys, sign language. So there is clearly a pathway to understanding and reasoning with animals and other species, but we're choosing as humans to not only not do that, but to not even understand our own people. The people that if someone is speaking Chinese, we can learn Chinese. We can get an AI to translate Chinese to us, and we're just choosing to be more different. Even if you look at it in the United States, how segregated, even though segregation is banned, we are very separated, and we might not be segregated in a sense that of how black and white were separated. We are now segregated in a different manner where you fall under a low class, a middle class, or high society, or the billionaire tier. And even from there, you're segregated from, well, I'm a blue collar worker, I'm a white collar worker. Oh, well, I'm in the law enforcement. Oh, actually, I'm in the entrepreneurial space. We use these words, these semantic words, to separate ourselves more and more and more instead of what it's supposed to do, which is to unify us. So how can we unify with animals and future AIs if we're not even able to use our main source of power, which is communication, to the benefit of everyone? I'm going on a massive tangent. But the main point of this is that we need to start thinking more on not only the problems that we have now, because the problems that we have now can easily be fixed if we were less selfish, but the future problems that are coming to arise once we reach, because I do believe that at some point we will get to we will get to a point where we are all collectively in a singular thought of like how we want to move as the human species, and we will get to a point whether one nation rules us, whether one ideology rules us, one religion rules us, whatever the case is. We're gonna get to that point. It's not a matter of how, really. It's really just like when we're gonna get there. As time moves forward, as people the old people start dying, and no matter how recessive everyone thinks we're getting, we're still more progressive than before. And I know people hate that line of thinking, but we clearly can never go back. And we're slowly moving forward and forward. No matter how much someone's like, well, I want to push us back as far as I can. I want to push more racism. I want to push more separation. I want to push more civil strife, right? No matter how much these people want to do that, we are clearly moving in a direction where we're going to be unified. So before we get to that point of unification, we really need to emotionally we just need to understand the things that we have gone through and how they apply to animals and these future robots, because we haven't applied them at all. But anyway, that's the new, like when the guy's like, oh, there's no new thoughts, like why are all the good the past philosophers are so amazing, there's like no good thoughts out there. And it's like one of those TikTok accounts that only tells like quotes, and it doesn't really go over like what could that mean to someone, what could that mean to them personally, what could that mean to another individual that doesn't have the same growing cultural aspect and everything that encompasses you becoming a person, and how that singular sentence that you just said from Seneca applies to you, because that same single sentence doesn't really apply to someone in Africa. Or at least it has a different way that it's going to apply to someone in Africa. But anyway, we have so many things to think about, and it's just a matter of applying it to, or we have so many things that we are thinking of for human people. We have so many things that we have thought about and that we have solved, and we need to begin to apply it to lower level beings, into created beings, and really get to the meat of how do we safeguard the future from the past atrocities. That's AFALOZ Daily. If you guys like what you hear, like and subscribe. That was pretty fast, I think. Let's go.